Good morning and welcome to today's Cabinet meeting. This is not a public meeting but a meeting the public can attend. I am the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Glyn Jones. I will be chairing this meeting and I would like to welcome you all. Before we commence proceedings, I would like to outline the domestic arrangements for the meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice today, but if the alarm sounds, please leave the building. This meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's website. By entering the Council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the Council. If anyone intends to record today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. Thank you. I will now commence the meeting. Item 1, apologies for absence. I have received an apology for absence from the Mayor of Doncaster, Ros Jones. Are there any further apologies? No. Item 2, exclusion of the public and press. There are no items on the agenda where the public and press are to be excluded. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 3, public statements and questions. We have no public statements or questions. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on today's agenda, please? No, thank you. Item 5, decision records from the meeting held on the 7th of February 2024. These have been previously circulated and are for noting only. Is that agreed? Thank you. Okay, that takes us on to item 6, Levelling Up Fund, round 3, funding offer. I will introduce this item. In May 2022, 2 bids were submitted to government as part of the second round of the Levelling Up Fund, one for the Doncaster North constituency and one for the Don Valley constituency. In January 2023, we found out that both of these bids were unsuccessful due to last-minute changes in criteria by the government after the bids had been submitted. For most of 2023, we were waiting for the criteria for the Levelling Up Fund round 3. In November 2023, we received a letter confirming that we had provisionally been awarded over £17.95 million through Levelling Up round 3 for Mexborough, Moorends and Broadsworth Miners Welfare for the Doncaster North constituency. This reflects the high quality of the bids submitted for Doncaster, and I am disappointed that we did not receive funding for Don Valley, as well as despite having cross-party support for the Edlington scheme. Since November, officials have been working with the Government Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities to get this programme fully approved so we can commence delivery. We are still working through this approval process. The Cabinet report presented today is a key step in moving towards full delivery of the programme. It seeks to accept the Levelling Up Fund award and proceed on the basis of the original application. Members will have read the detail of the programme in the report, and I want to take this opportunity to specifically highlight some important points. Had the bid been approved in 2022 when submitted, it would have provided for a 3-year delivery window. We now have until March 2026 to deliver this programme, only a 2-year delivery window. Inflation has also impacted the budget costs. The money now buys less today than it would have in May 2022 when submitted. These issues will obviously have implications for this programme of works for Doncaster North. Members will have noted that there are 2 project-specific risks highlighted in the report. Some of the premises included within the programme are in private ownership. This will need to be have additional negotiations and legal requirements to be able to deliver. Government's provisional award is based on its assessment of the original bid, as delivery timescales are reduced. Budgets cannot stretch as far as they could have done in 2022, and some premises require more detailed and protected processes before they might be deliverable. This is likely to result in a project adjustment being required. Any changes to the scheme, which may eventually be proposed, will require approval from the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. Changes are therefore not guaranteed. The challenge of delivery should not be underestimated, and the report highlights the very real risks and issues that have to be tackled. But the funding will provide much needed resource to facilitate tangible improvements for residents and businesses across the Doncaster North constituency. In accepting the Levelling Up Round 3 funding for Doncaster North, we have an opportunity to deliver improvements across Mexborough, Moorends and at Broadsworth Miners Welfare. I ask that Cabinet support this report and its recommendations, so I thank you. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this. Colleagues? Yes, Nigel.
Yeah, just a quick one, Chair. It's obviously great news for those 3 areas in terms of obviously this funding being awarded, and we know how much of a difference it'll make in those areas in terms of some of the projects being planned. However, it's worth noting that 6 days ago, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, made a speech where he redefined the areas that would now qualify for levelling up to include areas such as Canary Wharf, Buckinghamshire and Cambridge. That again is effectively leaving our old mining communities out in the cold, where you've got that clear regional disparity between sort of like north and south, and I think we need to be aware of that and understand that the government unfortunately are not committed to Doncaster or our mining communities.
Thank you, Nigel. Are there any more questions or comments, colleagues? Can't see anybody indicating. I will now read out the recommendations within the report. That Cabinet 1 accepts up to £17,950,341 Levelling Up Fund Round 3 monies, which has been awarded to Doncaster Council by DLUC in respect of Doncaster North, and to add the funding to the Council's capital programme. Item 2 is delegates authority to the Section 151 officer to accept and agree the terms and conditions of the associated Memorandum of Understanding and any further associated grant arrangements in respect of Doncaster North in consultation with the Mayor. Item 3 delegates authority to the Director of Place, the Director of Corporate Resources and the Chief Financial Officer in consultation with the relevant portfolio holders to accept any additional monies provided by government for Doncaster North schemes outlined in this report and to add these amounts to the relevant part of the Council's capital programme. Item 4 approves the rollout of the schemes as outlined in this report in accordance with the delegation below. And item 5 delegates authority to the Director of Place, the Director of Corporate Resources and Chief Financial Officer in consultation with the relevant portfolio holders for initiation and the ongoing delivery of the programme to include creation of specific projects within the capital programme funding commitments and spending decisions, and the amounts awarded to outside bodies in contracts and grants, and to agree any changes necessary to the schemes to ensure deliverability within the timescales in accordance with the terms and conditions of the grant. Is that moved? Thank you. I don't want to go through that again. Okay, is that seconded? Yeah, okay. Are the recommendations agreed? Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 7, stopping the start smoke-free generation plan and funding. I will invite Councillor Nigel Ball, Cabinet Member for Public Health, Communities, Leisure and Culture, to introduce this item. Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. Today marks the 40th anniversary of National No Smoking Day, and we encourage our residents not to give up on quitting and stopping smoking, and to make use of a variety of stop smoking support available in Doncaster that's obviously completely free of charge. Smoking continues to be the single biggest cause of cancer and death in the UK, and 2 in 3 people who smoke die from a smoking-related illness. Currently in Doncaster, around 30,000 people are addicted to smoking. Each year, over 4,200 people are admitted to hospital, and it is estimated that tobacco kills 615 Doncaster residents each year. Long-term smokers die on average 10 years earlier and spend years in poor health and living with smoking-related illnesses. Recent data, however, has told us that Doncaster may have seen a large reduction in smoking prevalence, certainly from 21 to 22. Although we are pleased to see the number of smokers in Doncaster fall, this reduction is not consistent with recent smoking trends, and we must therefore remain cautious and wait for additional data coming out later in this year to confirm this. Doncaster Public Health have recently redesigned and recommissioned the Community Stop Smoking service that supports adults in Doncaster to quit. These are also bespoke smoking cessation services for children and young people and for pregnant women, new mums and also their partners. On the 4th of October 2023, the government announced a programme of proposals and funding to create a smoke-free generation. As part of this, Doncaster will receive nearly £500,000 in additional funding from 2024 to 2025. This new funding will be invested in building capacity and demand for local stop smoking support, maximising the effectiveness of stop smoking services by increasing awareness, ensuring accessibility, and by increasing the number of community-based interventions and approaches across the borough. This investment is being made alongside proposed legislation to raise the age sale of tobacco and to tighten restrictions on the sale of vapes to children and certainly young people. This report seeks approval to accept the allocated funding and recommendations with this report. I ask that Cabinet support this today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions or make comments in relation to this item. No. Okay. I will now read out the recommendations within the report. That Cabinet firstly delegates the Acting Director of Public Health and the Chief Finance Officer the acceptance of £499,326 per annum DHSC funding over a 5-year period commencing 1st of April 2024 in association with the new national plan. Stopping the start, our new plan to create a smoke-free generation and to agree to the associated terms and conditions. Secondly, delegate to the Acting Director of Public Health in consultation with the portfolio holder for Public Health, Communities, Leisure and Culture and the Chief Finance Officer the decision as to how to use the DHSC funding within the set terms. Thirdly, supports the proposed investment approach as outlined in section 31 of this report. And finally, notes the significant public health impact that the implementation of the new smoke-free generation plan will have on a long-term population health of people in Doncaster. Is that moved? Okay, seconded. Is that agreed? Thank you, colleagues. Okay, item 8, Doncaster Carers Journey. I will invite Councillor Sarah Smith, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, to introduce this item. Sarah.
Thanks so much, Chair. A carer is a person who supports someone close to them who needs extra help as they grow older or due to a disability or a health condition or something else. If you support a partner, a family member, a friend or a neighbour who relies on you for help to live their life, then you are a carer. Carers are from all backgrounds. Carers are all ages. You can be a carer at the very end of your life, in the middle of your life, and you can also be a young carer, still at school or at university, who sacrifices your own academic achievement and leisure time to help your mum, your dad, a guardian, or a sibling manage their health condition. Many people don't even know that they're a carer, and many people who are carers don't know about the rights that they have. This is why Doncaster Carers Journey is so important and why I'm really passionate in supporting this in Cabinet today. Carers have the right to be identified if they wish to, and to be recognised both in terms of the huge contribution that they bring to Doncaster life and the barriers that they face themselves every day. Carers have the right for those barriers to be overcome through better information and advice, through advocacy, through access to support of all kinds that helps them to live their own lives just as they support their loved ones. Carers have the right to connect with opportunities that others take for granted. Carers have the right to well-being. Too many carers do not get to experience these rights. The report in front of us today is about trying to put this right. It sets out what key Doncaster organisations, including the council, are doing both individually and in partnership to support carers better. It describes progress that was made in 2023 and plans that are in place for 2024, which are very exciting. This report will come back to Cabinet every year so that this council and other Doncaster organisations stay publicly accountable for ensuring that our carers experience the rights to which they're entitled to. Importantly, the document will be made available in different formats so it's accessible for all Doncaster's communities. Carers are all around us. 1 in 8 of us will become a carer at some point in our lives, and this becomes 1 in every 4 for women. As a carer myself, tending to a loved one with a brain injury and significant health challenges, I intimately understand the profound challenges of life as a carer, balancing work and caring responsibilities. Lately, I've been feeling a lot more stressed than normal, unable to pinpoint the exact cause. It wasn't until this past Friday when I completed the arduous task of compiling masses of paperwork for a DWP appeal, contesting an unjust and baseless decision, that it dawned on me. The sheer magnitude of time spent gathering 5 years' worth of medical records and assessments, advocating tirelessly for our loved one to receive the support they rightly deserve, had taken a toll on me. And this is the everyday life of carers across Doncaster. As a carer, it can be difficult to join post-work drinks. Every moment carries the weight of a potential crisis, especially when an unexpected call disrupts the day. It's a delicate dance on the edge where the mundane can blur with the looming apprehensions. Adding, navigating, and trying to advocate within some of our support systems can be incredibly daunting and truly, truly challenging. But we also have some good times as well. The carer's journey encapsulates these realities, reflecting the real voices and experience of carers in Doncaster who have collaborated with us in shaping their priorities. Council officers and partnership organisations can't support carers effectively if they aren't alongside us carers, directly understanding life in our shoes, in carers' shoes. That's why this report has been put together jointly with a range of carers who are generously given their incredibly valuable time, and I ask that Cabinet support the report today. And this gives me the perfect moment to hand over to Debbie Osborne, the co-chair of both Doncaster Carers Strategic Oversight Board and our Carers Action Group, as well as Ginavi Pizzoni from Doncaster Carers. Both of these people have been absolutely key and a core part of co-producing the carers' journey with us. And I thank them so much for all their time and support, and hand over to them. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting myself and Gio to present the first Doncaster Carers Journey Report, along with Councillor Sarah Smith. Whilst it does show progress has been made since I first started caring for family members, which was nearly 30 years ago now, people still need more progress to be made in Doncaster to ensure that all carers feel valued, heard and supported. In this report, we highlighted the role of a young carer and also parent carers, as we feel that these caring roles are often overlooked. It is also important to know that often the word carer is associated with paid carers, and carers have asked us to put this forward that we'd like to be addressed, as it can also cause a lot of confusion. The report was developed and co-produced with carers along with council staff, Bal Mohabit, I think is in here, and Councillor Sarah Smith. And it should be recognised that all future developments in services for carers should continue to be co-produced with people who have had lived experience of caring. And I'm going to pass you over to Gio.
Thank you. For the benefit of those that haven't yet read the Carers Journey, the document highlights the following themes that set out our priorities over the coming years. Number 1, identification. Many carers do not even realise they are carers, even when they put their lives on hold to focus on their caring responsibilities. They simply believe that they are fulfilling their marital, parental or other senses of obligation. This can and does lead to many carers missing out on some essential services. Number 2, recognition. Many carers feel underappreciated, ignored and marginalised by society, despite the fact that, according to Carers UK, unpaid carers contribute around £162 billion annually to the UK economy, and roughly equivalent to a second NHS in England and Wales, their words, not mine. Working age carers are particularly hard hit, often left with little choice but to sacrifice their own career or job prospects to become full-time unpaid carers reliant on a demoralising benefit system. According to 2022 figures, a staggering 44% of working age carers that care for over 35 hours a week are in poverty. Number 3, information and advice. There are many fantastic services available from Doncaster Council and local community groups. However, one of the most common recurring themes of feedback we receive is that carers simply do not know that these services are out there. The local authority needs to do more to address the growing perception among carers that services are deliberately kept quiet due to being unable to meet the true levels of demand in the area. Number 4, rights. This has been extensively covered by Sarah already. Unfortunately, being a carer is not a protected characteristic in the UK. Many carers suffer from discrimination. It is reassuring that there is renewed enthusiasm by the local authority to raise awareness of carers' rights. Number 5, connection. There are several community groups in and around Doncaster that offer peer support to carers. Doncaster Parents' Voice have provided carer services for many years, but we recognise that many carers are unable to travel to the city centre, and so we are supporting smaller local groups to help reduce isolation in the so-called harder-to-reach areas. In terms of forging connections between carers and the local service providers, we are slowly seeing more and more providers and leaders within the local authority and NHS proactively encourage and pursue policies of meaningful co-production. However, we have often found such attempts to be quite tokenistic, and there is still some way to go. Number 6, independence and well-being. Many carers, unfortunately, cannot contemplate life beyond their caring duties. In addition to the issues already outlined, carers need improved access to respite opportunities, health and well-being services such as counselling, therapy, and training to improve carers' confidence and effectiveness. Finally, the conclusion of the document on page 12 outlines how these 6 themes form the basis of our priorities for the next year, including a list of achievable actions that we hope will go some way to improving the lives of carers and by extension, the people being cared for in our city. I finish with a reminder that carers offer a vast range of knowledge and experience that should be at the forefront of any discussions and actions thereof going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni, Debbie and Sarah for introducing the report. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they want to ask any questions in relation to this item. Sarah and Rachel. I'll take Rachel first because Sarah's introduced the report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for that very eloquent introduction to the report. And thank you to the carers that have attended today and who also have shared their experiences. Really pleased to see what some of the priorities are for next year. I think employers for carers is something that is really important that we as a council get involved in and obviously develop that accreditation to demonstrate to our staff who are carers that support is there. Really pleased as well to see that desire for carers to be a protected characteristic. And very happy to work with you on that, Sarah, in terms of my equalities portfolio. I was reflecting, though, as you were both talking, because I worked as a carers worker in the late 80s. And what was really sad is everything you said, I said then. So we really have, as a council, as partners, as stakeholders, to grasp this year and next year, and obviously in the future, what we really need to do to support carers. But I do have a question, and I think people are sometimes surprised when we find that people listen to what's happened at full council. So somebody might be watching this who suddenly dawned on them, listening to all of you, that they are actually a carer. So, and you mentioned about services that are out there, and it's incredibly difficult to know where to start. So I was just really keen to understand where should they start to make sure that when they do get that their first response is one that really does support them in their carer journey. I don't know who wants to answer that, but I think that's important for people to hear.
Well, one of the places that lots of people start is the GP, but they often quite find that the GP is not very helpful. Health visitors, schools even schools don't really find, for parent carers, for example, they don't really take on board what a parent carer's role is. So it's hard to say where to start because we should be everybody. It should be everybody's business. So everybody should be aware that somebody could be a carer who they're actually supporting.
So all carers are entitled to a conversation about their care and support needs, and so they can contact the Carers Wellbeing Service in Doncaster, who will talk with them to really understand what's important to them and the support that could really help them out. I don't have the contact details to hand, I'm afraid, but we can provide those certainly. So Doncaster Carers Wellbeing Service.
Okay, thank you, Barney, Debbie, and thank you for your question, Rachel. Sarah.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much to both Gio and Debbie there and to Rachel for these fantastic elements, and just to say that everything spoken today, that it is a core priority. Anybody that works with me knows that I just talk about this quite a lot. In the carers journey that you'll be able to download online from the council website, it's got loads of links to the resources, all different types, including the carers wellbeing service. So that's a really easy point to find that information. But like Debbie said, we've got a lot to go as partners and as council to make sure that all these services are joined up. And I would encourage anybody that wants to be part of that journey and can have time to do so, please do join us. And they're quite fun sometimes. So thank you.
I can vouch for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any more questions? I can't see any. So if we can, I will read out the recommendations within the report. And the recommendation is that Cabinet approves Doncaster Carers Journey 2024. Is that moved? Seconded? And a recommendation agreed? Lovely, thank you. I'll move on to item 9, Q3 Finance and Performance Report. I will invite Councillor Phil Cole, Cabinet Member for Finance, Traded Services and Planning, to introduce this item. Phil, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to introduce the Q3 Finance and Performance Report for 2023-24 and to outline how the Council continues to deliver its services for the people of Doncaster whilst operating in a challenging and uncertain environment. The Council continues to be impacted by inflationary pressures. However, we're managing the position, and this is reflected in the balanced position forecast on the revenue budget at Q3. In plain English, that means we are on course to break even in terms of our budget, unlike many local authorities that are facing considerable financial difficulties. The key pressures include overspends on both adults and children's social care, costs significantly exceeding budgets. It is only by using £4 million of non-recurrent underspends, including additional one-off grant funding allocated, that the overspend has been reduced and a balanced position is forecast. We will continue to monitor the position and take mitigating action wherever required to ensure that we begin 2024-25 on a sound financial basis in preparation for delivering the 2024-25 budget approved at full council last month. I'm proud to say that whilst many councils of different political complexions are issuing Section 114 notices, we are still able to deliver day-to-day business and stay within budget, and there is no prospect of our council finishing up in a similar position to those desperate enough to serve those notices. Our performance for Q3 also remains predominantly positive in the face of these fiscal challenges. To provide some illustrations of the performance standards we've been seeking to achieve, I'd like to say that in the past quarter we have delivered 136 new affordable homes, part of the Mayor's mission to tackle the rising threat of homelessness during the cost of living crisis. We've also retrofitted 339 homes to make them warmer homes. One of the, at a time when the government are having to commission new gas-fired power stations to ensure the UK's energy security, the government may well be better reminded that the cheapest energy for the UK is the energy that is never required because the homes are warm and the energy bills are low. And if this government provided better and more consistent funding for local authorities across the country, we and many more councils will be able to retrofit many more homes more quickly, reducing fuel poverty and reducing carbon emissions. Doncaster has also seen the creation of 129 new paid jobs created that pay over £31,000 per annum. These are new, higher skilled jobs, which is a demonstration of the diversification of our economy. We continue to reduce assessment waiting times and annual reviews are on target. There is an improvement in the number of education and healthcare plans issued within 20 weeks. This is the highest completion rate since Q2 of the year 2021-22. Over this last quarter, our community teams have responded to over 6,400 early intervention and prevention issues to tackle antisocial behaviour, hate crime and low-level crime in our neighbourhoods. And over 400 families were referred to our early intervention support from our Stronger Communities service. Both of those examples illustrate our belief that the earlier problems can be tackled. There is a long-term saving for the council and other public services in terms of resources. Early intervention clearly works. We're also exceeding our target for removing fly tipping. A remarkable 99.5% of the cases reported were cleared within 7 days. Again, part of the Mayor's determination that we will have a cleaner, greener borough, and that means, sadly, having to respond quickly to the criminals who will dump and fly tip indiscriminately across the borough. Given that we have the largest footprint, the largest mileage of roads of any metropolitan borough in the country, I think it's remarkable that our fly tipping teams are able to cover such a vast area so efficiently. We continue to review activity to improve our performance wherever there are challenges facing the council. And just an illustration of how important the council is as a place for people to turn to with problems. In Q3, we received nearly 43,000 phone calls from residents. That is 1 in 50 of the adult population ringing the council every week with a problem or something they need help with. And it's to the credit of our frontline staff and our staff across our services that they are dealing so efficiently and flexibly with the problems and support that our residents need. To sum up, the council continues to operate under challenging circumstances, and despite this, we are delivering on and above service standards set at the beginning of the year, which is a credit to the hard work and commitment of our workforce and our partners. I commend this report to Cabinet today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. Rachel.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to finish the year by thanking our amazing children's services staff who do an amazing job day in and day out. I think we've spoken many times in this cabinet about the difficulties that many families are facing. We are unashamedly proud of the fact that we have such amazing early help services, so they can be there when people need it. And also when people get to crisis and need more help, our children's social care are there as well. I think as well, if you look at the government rhetoric in terms of being more productive and more innovative, it's really proud as cabinet members, the conversations we have with our staff who are constantly innovating, constantly looking at how they can support families better to enable the families to get the outcomes that they want. So I think it is really important at the end of the year to recognise and thank them for the work that they do day in and day out. I think in terms of children's social care and spending, I think it's something that every council up and down the land faces. You know, we have been waiting for the outcome, a positive outcome, to look at things like costs for children and young people that need residential care. But sadly, so far, we have a government that's chosen not to take action, and local authorities pick up the cost for their inactivity. So thank you. We will keep on working as a children's social services team. We will continue to be productive, be innovative, and look where we can to make sure that we get the best outcomes for our children and young people and deliver the budgets that we need to. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I will now read out the recommendations within the report. That Cabinet are asked to approve and comment on the Q3 performance and financial information, including, firstly, approval of the variance per the financial procedure rules detailed in the Appendix A, the financial profile. Secondly, notes the allocations of block budgets in the capital programme detailed in the Appendix A, the financial profile, in accordance with the financial procedure rules. And thirdly, approves payment to St Ledger Homes as part of the contract management arrangements for the additional inflationary costs over and above those budgeted within the housing revenue account namely £570,000 and the general fund of £160,000 with reconciliations at year end to ensure any surplus is returned to the council. Is that moved? Is that seconded? And are the recommendations agreed? Thank you, colleagues. We'll move on to agenda item 10, St Ledger Homes of Doncaster Limited Key Performance Indicators and Tenant Satisfaction Measures update for quarter 3, which ended 31st of December 2023, and value for money statement for year ended 31st of March 2023. I will introduce this item. Colleagues, before us today, we have a set of papers from St Ledger which include current performance against the key performance indicators set out by this council for St Ledger Homes. The key performance indicators agreed for next year and the annual value for money statement. Attached to those documents are a series of detailed benchmarking information which allows us to consider the performance of St Ledger Homes against the rest of the social housing industry across the country. I will firstly address the 2023-24 quarter 3 performance report. As we know, amongst the 22 key performance indicators, we set St Ledger some very challenging targets. In 12 of these areas, St Ledger Homes are either meeting the target or are within an agreed tolerance of the target. 2 targets are annual targets and cannot be reported until year end, and in 8 areas, St Ledger Homes are not meeting the target we set. If I address some of the areas which are not on target, KPIs 2 and 3 relate to rent loss on void properties at the time taken to let properties. I must point out that the benchmarking tables in Appendix C and D indicate that St Ledger's performance is in the top quartile or top 25% of comparable landlords. In fact, in respect of relet times, performance is well within the top quartile. So while set against St Ledger are not meeting our tough target, they are in fact performing extremely well in these areas. Every St Ledger home standing empty is one less property we can offer to a homeless family, and we will continue to ensure St Ledger prioritise this critical area. In relation to KPIs 4 and 5, which deal with homelessness, I want to make 3 very important points. Firstly, as a council, we will continue to do all we can to assist those that are forced to live without a permanent home. Secondly, Doncaster is not unique. Every council across the country is experiencing homelessness issues like never before. As a council, we are doing far more than within our statutory duties. The simple reason is that it's the right thing to do. It is a failing of the whole housing system that sees housing being unaffordable, too few houses built, and a benefit system that doesn't actually provide enough support to cover private rents. The third point I will make is that the target on preventions was set with the advice of the government. They subsequently advised that they'd got it wrong, and it should have been about half of where we had set it, based on their advice. That said, St Ledger and the relevant council departments are working hard to deal with the increasing demand for support in this area. The second major report in the pack relates to the value for money statement for 2022-2023. Unfortunately, this benchmarking data isn't available until the end of the calendar year, so this report always seems to come sometime after the financial year end. In this report, we note some good news that here in Doncaster we have some of the country's lowest rents. In fact, we have the lowest ninth lowest in England. It follows that we have to deliver all our services extremely efficiently, and this report demonstrates that this is the case. The summary graphs in section 10 indicate this well. Last year it was felt the performance was the best ever for St Leger. This year we can see that whilst in one or two areas it looks as though costs have fared less well in St Leger compared to others, in fact costs have risen only marginally. In terms of service standards, St Leger's performance has on the whole improved. So again, this is another very strong set of results. The last item I want to draw attention to is Appendix D, which indicates the targets we have set for St Leger for the forthcoming year. Again, we have set exacting standards, but we have paid close attention to the national benchmarking and the government's new tenant satisfaction measures. We believe the targets set are stretching but fair and fit with our aspirations to always deliver top quality housing services. Lastly, I want to draw attention to the recommendations in section 3 of the report and the error that refers to the Executive Board rather than the Cabinet, and make it clear that Cabinet is being asked to approve the recommendations highlighted in the report. Thank you, colleagues. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. Nigel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just a quick one. I suppose it's just to sort of like recognise the specific and dedicated work that the newly formed ASB team is pulling together around tackling borough-wide ASB that were formed last year. I've seen some massive improvements in that, and their ability to be able to work in really, really strong partnership with South Yorkshire Police and our communities team in all wards of Doncaster. So we can see that that's an improving picture. I'm really pleased with that, and hopefully it'll continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel. Any more questions from Cabinet? No. So I will now read out the recommendations within the report. That Cabinet notes, firstly, the progress of St Leger's performance and the contribution St Leger Homes of Doncaster makes to supporting the City of Doncaster Council's strategic priorities. And secondly, the annual value for money statement for 2022/23 and the KPIs for 2024 and 2025. Is that moved? Seconded? Everybody agreed? Thank you, colleagues. Right, we move on to item 11, biodiversity duty first consideration. I will now invite Councillor Mark Holbrook, Cabinet Member for Sustainability and Waste, to introduce this item. Mark.
Thank you, Chair. The biodiversity duty requires the Council, as a public authority, to consider what action it takes to conserve and enhance biodiversity across its functions. Today I present to Cabinet City of Doncaster Council's first consideration of the biodiversity duty set out in the accompanying report. This duty to consider not only the conservation but also the enhancement of biodiversity resonates with the Council's commitment to the climate and biodiversity emergency and encourages us to be accountable for our actions. Our work so far in delivering against this commitment, specifically for biodiversity, is set out in the first consideration report. The report also sets out further potential areas where action could be taken to conserve and enhance biodiversity. For some council services, this duty will be central to the delivery of their functions, and for others less so. But this government requirement is designed to embed the consideration of biodiversity in everything that we do. This should be welcomed and is likely to be relevant to varying degrees to a broad range of services. The important next steps are for the Council to review and agree what actions, policies or objectives it will now take to conserve and enhance biodiversity and report on these as required. I'd just like to take the opportunity, Chair, if I may, just to provide some positive highlights and success stories. The publication of the South Yorkshire Natural Capital and Biodiversity Mapping Study, which provides our first assessment of the value of our natural assets in monetary and physical terms, which identifies biodiversity priorities and opportunities for the conservation and enhancement of our ecosystem services. Also, the partnership funding successes for environmental projects across the borough, including the Nature for Climate and Life More Space projects, focused on peatland restoration in the Umber levels. The All Hands on the Don project focused on reconnecting communities with the River Don, and also the numerous tree planting projects that we are currently undertaking across the borough, which currently stands, without taking into consideration this year's total, 166,000 trees. And we've also the adoption of the Biodiversity Net Gain Supplementary Planning Document and approval for the Council's first Habitat Bank. The actions that the Council decides to take next will be brought back to Cabinet in due course, and there will be requirements to report on our progress against these at regular intervals. For now, I hope my Cabinet colleagues can join me in recommending the first consideration of the biodiversity duty be approved and published. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. I can see no questions coming forth, so I will read out the recommendations within the report. And that is that Cabinet notes and endorses the publication of the Council's first consideration of the biodiversity duty. The actions that the Council subsequently agrees to take will be approved as a separate decision. Is that moved? Seconded? And is that recommendation agreed? Okay, colleagues, before we end the meeting, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to the Chief Executive at St Ledger Homes, this probably is his last Cabinet meeting that he's going to attend. He's retiring very shortly. So thank you for your work, Dave, and the commitment that you put in there. So thank you. Okay, that concludes the items of business on the agenda today, and I would like to thank everyone for their attendance and input, and I will now close the meeting. Thank you.